Hello everybody, and welcome to my second video. Before I start this video, I just want to say that this is a really long story and I'm going to upload this in parts, and I'd appreciate it if you watched it the whole way through. And something that I really want to say is every single little detail that I mention within this video, within this story, you need to listen to, because every single detail will make sense within the end of the story. It's a long story, but one you've never heard before. The story is about a place that dwells on the mountain, a place where bad things happen. And you may think you know about the bad things. You may decide you have it all figured out, but you don't, because the truth is worse than monsters or men. At first I was upset when they told me that I was moving to some little town out in the Ozarks. I remember staring at my dinner plate while I was listening to my sister throw a temper tantrum unbenefiting of a 14-year-old honors student. She cried, she pleaded, and then she cursed at my parents. She threw a bowl at my dad and told him it was all his fault. Mum told Whitney to calm down, but she stormed off, slamming every door in the house on the way to her room. I secretly blamed my dad as well. I heard the whispers too. My dad had done something wrong, something bad, and the sheriff's department had reassigned him to some little out-of-the-way county to save face. My parents didn't want me to know that, but I did. I was 9, so it didn't take me too long to warm the idea of a change. It was like an adventure. New house, new school, new friends. Whitney, of course, felt the opposite. Moving to a new school at her age is hard. Moving away from her new boyfriend, however, was even harder. While the rest of us packed up our things and said our goodbyes, Whitney sulked and cried and threatened to run away from the home. But a month later, when we pulled to our new house in Drisking, Missouri, she was sitting right next to me texting viciously on her phone. Thankfully, we moved over the summer, and I had a few months of free time to explore the town. When Dad started his new job at the sheriff's office, Mum drove us around the city commenting on this and that. The city was much smaller than St. Louis, but a lot nicer. There was no bad areas, and the entire town looked like something you'd see on a postcard. Drisking was built in a mountain valley surrounded by healthy forest land and walking trails and crystal clear lakes. I was 9, it was summer, and this was heaven. We'd only been living in Drisking a week or so when our next door neighbors came to introduce themselves, Mr. and Mrs. Landy and their 10-year-old son Kyle. While our parents talked and drank mimosas, I watched the Landy's lanky, red-headed son hung out in the doorway, shyly eyeing the PS2 in the living room. Do you play?" I asked. He shrugged. "Not really. Do you wanna? I just got Tekken 4. Carl glanced at his mum, who had just been handed her third mimosa. "Yeah, sure." And that afternoon, with the ease and simplicity of our age, Carl and I became best friends. We spent the cool summer mornings outside exploring the Ozarks, and the hot afternoons in the living room playing the PS2. He introduced me to the only other kid in the neighborhood our age, a skinny, quiet girl named Kimber DeStaro. She was shy but friendly, and always up for anything. Kimber kept with us so well that she quickly became the third wheel of our tricycle. With my dad at work all the time, my mum consumed with her new friendships, and my sister locked in her room all day. The summer was ours to take, and take it we did. Carl and Kimber showed me where all the best hiking trails were, which lakes were the best and most accessible for bike, and where the best stores were in town. By the time the first day of school rolled around in September, I knew I was home. On the last Saturday before school started, Carl and Kimber told me that they were going to take me somewhere special, somewhere we hadn't been. The Triple Tree. "What's a triple tree?" I asked. "It's a totally awesome, totally huge treehouse in the woods," Carl said excitedly. Whatever, Kyle. Come on, you guys. If there was a freaking treehouse, you would have showed it to me already. Nuh-uh, we wouldn't have. Kyle shook his head. There was a ceremony for first-timers and everything. Kimber nodded eagerly in agreement, her dark orange curls bouncing off her tiny shoulders. Yep, it's true, Sam. If you enter the treehouse without the proper ceremony, you'll disappear, and then you'll die. My face fell. I knew they were making fun of me. That's a lie. You guys are lying to me. No, we're not, Kimber insisted. Yeah, we'll show you. We just have to get a knife for the ceremony and we'll go. What? Why do you need a knife? Is it a blood ceremony? I whispered. No way, Kimber promised. You just say some words and carve your name into the triple tree. Yep, it just takes 1 minute, Carl agreed. And it's a really cool treehouse? I asked. Oh yeah, Carl promised. Okay guys, I'll do it then. Carl insisted on using the same knife he used during his own ceremony, but we paid a price to get it. Mrs. Landy just happened to be home with her youngest son Parker, and despite Carl's many objections, his mother insisted he takes his 6-year-old brother with him. Mom, we're going to the treehouse. It's only for older kids. Parker can't go. I don't care if you're going to see an Exorcist movie marathon. You're taking your brother with you. I need a break, Carl. Can't you understand that? And I'm sure your friends won't mind. She flashed Kimber and me a challenging look. Right? Not at all, Kimber said, and I nodded in agreement. Carl made a loud, dramatic sigh and called his brother. Parker, put your shoes on. We're leaving now. I met the youngest Landy several times before and found that he was unlike his older brother in looks as in disposition. Where Carl was a wild, excitable fireball with hair to match, I found Parker to be an anxious, fidgety boy with small eyes and dark brown hair. We got on our bikes and made our way to the lesser-known hiking trail a few miles away. I'd asked a few times before where the trail led, and when we'd ridden across it several times before, and Carl had given me the underwhelming answer of nowhere interesting. We pulled up to the trailhead and leaned our bikes against the wooden signpost which read West Wim Prescott Ore Trail. Why are there so many trails around here named Prescott? I asked. Is this Prescott Mountain or something? Kimber laughed. No, dummy, it's because of the Prescotts, you know, the family that lives in the mansion up on Fairmount. Mr. Prescott and his son Jimmy own like half of the business in town. More than half, Carl agreed. Which ones? Does he own GameStop? The only store in Drisking I really cared about. I don't know about that one. Carl wound a lock around the bikes and clicked the bar into place, then spun the numbers on the dial. But like the hardware store, the pharmacy, Glidden's on second in the newspaper. Did they start this town? I asked. Nah, mining started the town. I want to go home. Parker had been so quiet I completely forgotten he was here. You can't go home, Carl rolled his eyes. Mum said I had to bring you. Now come on, it's only like a 2-mile walk. I want to take my bike, Parker answered. Too bad, we're going off trail. I don't wanna. I'll stay with the bikes. Don't be such a wussy. I'm not. Carl, be nice, Kimber hissed. He's only 5. I'm 6, Parker objected. I'm sorry, 6. You're 6. Kimber smiled at him. Alright, fine. He can hold your hand if he wants, but he's coming. Carl turned and started up the trail. Parker's face fell into the undignified frown, but when the charming Kimber struck her hand and wiggled her fingers at him, he took it. Carl was right. It wasn't a long walk. Only a half-mile down the trail and then another half-mile hike on a well-thread path up the mountain. It was a steep climb though, and by the time we got to the treehouse, I was winded. What do you think? Carl asked excitedly. I studied the tree as I caught my breath. It's pretty awesome. I smiled, and they hadn't lied to me. The treehouse was the biggest I'd ever seen. It had multiple rooms and there were actual curtains in the windows. A sign above the door said, Ambicott Fort, and a rope ladder hung below the threshold, missing several planks. I'm going first, yelled Parker, but Kimber caught his arm. You have to do the ceremony first or you'll disappear, she reminded him. That'll be fine with me, Carl grumbled. I was eager to get into the fort myself. Give me that knife. I held out my hand. Carl smiled and dug the switchblade out of his pocket. There's some space in the back to carve your name. I opened the knife, walked around the tree for an empty spot. There were so many names on that tree that I had to crouch down and look near the bottom since I couldn't reach any higher. I spotted both Carl and Kimber's carvings on the tree, and I finally found a spot near the ladder. I bit my tongue and carved Sam W into a blank piece of bark underneath someone's name, Paul S. Parker went next, but he had so much trouble with the knife that Carl had to do it for him. "Alright, let's go." I ran over the rope ladder. "Wait!" Carl yelled. "You have to say the words first." "Oh yeah, okay, what are they?" Kimber sang them out. "Underneath the triple tree, there is a man who waits for me. And should I go, or should I stay? My fate the same, either way." "That's creepy," I said. What does it mean?" Kimber shrugged. "No one knows anymore, it's just tradition." "Okay, can you say it one more time slower?" Once Parker and I had recited the poem, we are ready to go. I climbed the rope ladder first and took stock of my new surroundings. The treehouse was more or less empty, just a dirty rug here and there and some trash, old soda cans and beer cans and fast food wrappers. I went room to room, 4 in total, and found nothing of real interest until the last one. An old mattress lay in the corner and piles of musty, ripped clothing scattered on the floor. "Did a hobo live here?" I asked. "Nah, this room had been like this for as long as I can remember," Carl said from the doorway behind me. "It smells gross," I said. Kimber walked up to the threshold, but refused to go any further. "It's not the smell that freaks me out, it's that." She pointed at the ceiling and raised my eyes to read what was written there. "Road to the gateways of hell, mile marker 1. "What does it mean?" I asked. "It's just older kids being dicks," Carl said. "Come on, I'll show you the best part of the treehouse." We walked back to the first room, and Parker looked up at us and smiled, pointing down to what he'd clumsily carved into the wooden floor. "Fart," Carl read. "That's hilarious, Parker." He rolled his eyes, but his little brother didn't pick up on the sarcasm and smiled proudly. Kimber sat down on the floor next to Parker, and I sat on his either side. Carl took the knife from his brother and then walked across the room and wedged the blade between 2 planks of the wooden wall. He pushed to the board and gave opening a small secret compartment in the wall. Carl took something out and pushed the plank back in it until it flushed with the others. "Check it out." He turned around and proudly held up 2 cans of Miller Lite beer. "Whoa," I said. "Ew, warm beer. That's gross. How did you even know it was here?" Kimber asked. "Phil Sanders told me." "Are we gonna drink it?" I asked. "Oh yeah, we're gonna drink it." Carl came and sat down in our circle, popped open the first beer and offered it to Kimber. She eyed it like he was trying to hand her a dirty diaper. "Come on, Kimmy. Don't call me that," she ordered him, and then reluctantly took the open beer and smelled it and made a face, then pinched her nose and took a small swig. Kimber shrugged. That was even grosser than I imagined. "I don't want any. I'll tell Mom," Parker said quickly as the beer passed in front of him to me. "Good, 'cause you ain't getting any," Carl promised, "and you won't tell Mom shit." I put on the best poker face and took a long, deep swallow of the warm beer before I had the chance to smell it. It was a poor decision, and when I retched, the foul yellow liquid went all over my shirt. Oh man, now I'm gonna smell like beer. We spent the next hour and a half drinking the 2 cans of Miller Lite, and after a while the taste grew more tolerable. I couldn't tell if I was becoming a man or actually getting drunk. I hope it was the former. When the last drop of the last beer was consumed, we spent 20 minutes trying to determine if we were drunk. Carl assured us that he was wasted while Kimber wasn't sure. I didn't think I was, but I failed all of our drunk tests. Kimber was in the middle of reciting the alphabet backwards when a loud, metallic grinding suddenly pierced the calm mountain air like a gunshot. Kimber stopped talking, and we spent a few minutes staring at each other, waiting for the noise to end. Parker curled up into Kimber and put his hands over his ears. After what seemed like 10 whole minutes, the sound ended as suddenly as it had begun. "What was that?" I asked, and Parker mumbled something into Kimber's sweatshirt. "Do you guys know?" I tried again. Kimber stared at her feet and she crossed and uncrossed them. "Well?" "It's nothing," Carl answered finally. "We hear it sometimes in town. It's not a big deal, it's just louder up here." "But what's making that sound?" "Borrasca," Kimber whispered without taking her eyes off her feet. "Who's that?" I asked. "Not who, where," Carl answered. "It's a place." "Another town?" "No, it's just a place in the woods." "Oh." "Bad things happen there," Kimber said more to herself than me. "Like what?" "Bad things," Kimber repeated. "Yeah, don't ever try to find it, dude," Carl said behind me, "or bad things will happen to you too." "But like, what bad things?" I turned around, Carl shrugged and Kimber stood up and walked over to the rope ladder. "We'd better go. I have to get home to my mom," she said. We climbed down the ladder and one by one then started to walk back to the trailhead in an unfamiliar silence. I was dying of curiosity about Borrasca, but couldn't decide if and what to ask about it. "So, who lives there?" "Where?" Carl asked. "Borrasca." "The skinned men," Parker answered.